If you've been saving toward a 20% down payment on your first home, I need you to stop for a second. Not because saving is wrong. Saving is right, but there's a very good chance the number you've been working toward isn't the number you actually need, and while you've been saving toward an unnecessarily high target, the market has kept moving. The 20% down payment rule didn't come from a law. It didn't come from a mortgage guideline. It came from a time when 20% was required to avoid private mortgage insurance and when home prices were low enough that 20% was a reachable number for most buyers. In 2024, the median first-time buyer put down 8%, not 28%, and they did it using programs and loan products that most people saving toward 20% don't even know exist. Here's what those options actually look like. Private mortgage insurance, PMI, is what lenders require when a buyer puts down less than 20% on a conventional loan. It protects the lender, not the buyer, in case of default. It typically costs between 0.5 and 1.5% of the loan amount a year. On a $300,000 loan, that's $1,500 to $4,500 a year, or $125 to $375 a month added to your payment. The conventional wisdom became save 20%. Avoid PMI, get a better rate, get a lower payment. And that logic isn't wrong exactly, but it makes a critical error. It assumes the only cost of waiting to save 20% is the PMI you're avoiding. It doesn't account for the cost of continuing to rent while you save, the appreciation you miss while you're on the sidelines, or the possibility that by the time you reach 20%, the home prices in your target market have risen enough that 20% is an even larger number than when you started. In a market where home prices have risen 5% in the time it took you to save an additional 2% of a purchase price that also went up, the 20% strategy can cost more than the PMI it was designed to avoid. This doesn't mean you should buy with as little down as possible, regardless of consequences. It means the decision about how much to put down deserves actual math applied to your actual situation, not a rule that predates the housing market you're actually buying in. Let's go through every low down payment option available to a first-time buyer in plain language. Conventional loans with 3% down. Fannie Mae's Home Ready and Freddie Mac's Home Possible programs both allow 3% down for buyers who meet income limits, which in most markets cover a very wide range of first-time buyers. PMI is required but can be canceled once you reach 20% equity. These are not niche programs. They are mainstream conventional loan products available through most lenders. FHA loans with 3.5% down. The Federal Housing Administration insures loans for buyers with credit scores as low as 580 with 3.5% down, or as low as 500 with 10% down. FHA has more flexible debt-to-income requirements than conventional loans, which matters for buyers carrying student debt. The downside is mortgage insurance premium, which on FHA loans originated after 2013 with less than 10% downstays for the life of the loan. Build a plan to refinance into a conventional loan once you hit 20% equity to eliminate it. USDA loans with 0 down. In eligible rural and suburban areas, which covers far more geography than most buyers expect, USDA loans require no down payment and charge no PMI. They do have an upfront guarantee fee of 1% of the loan amount and an annual fee of 0.35%. But these are significantly lower than PMI on most conventional products. Income limits apply, but are generous in most markets. VA loans with 0 down. Available to eligible veterans, active military, and surviving spouses, no down payment, no PMI, competitive rates, and the most favorable terms of any mortgage product available in the U.S. market. If you're eligible, there is no better loan. State down payment assistance programs. Every state has a housing finance agency with programs that provide down payment assistance as forgivable grants or deferred loans. The assistance can be applied on top of any of the above loan products, meaning a buyer using a 3% down conventional loan plus 5% in state assistance could theoretically bring zero cash to the down payment entirely. Let's run the actual comparison so this isn't abstract. Scenario 1. You wait 3 more years to save 20% on a $320,000 home. Your target savings is $64,000. During those 3 years, the home appreciates at 4% a year and is now worth roughly $360,000. Your new 20% target is $72,000. You also paid $57,600 in rent during those 3 years at $1,600 a month. Total cost of the waiting strategy, $57,600 in rent paid to someone else, a higher purchase price, and a larger down payment target than when you started. Scenario 2. You buy today with 5% down, $16,000 on the $320,000 home. You pay PMI of approximately $160 a month. Over 3 years, that's $5,760 in PMI. You've been building equity as the home appreciates and your loan balance decreases. By year 3, your home is worth roughly $360,000 and your loan balance is around $290,000. Your equity is approximately $70,000. The buyer who waited has a higher purchase price, a larger required down payment, 3 years of rent payments, and no equity. The buyer who bought with 5% down has paid $5,760 in PMI and has $70,000 in equity. PMI is a cost. It's not a catastrophe. And in many cases, it's significantly cheaper than the alternative. There are genuine situations where saving toward 20% is the right strategy. Here's when the math supports it. When your income is very stable, your rent is low relative to your market's home prices, and you can save aggressively without significant sacrifice, waiting for 20% can make sense if your target market isn't appreciating rapidly and if the PMI cost on your loan product would be significant. When you're buying in a market with high property taxes and insurance costs, eliminating PMI from the payment equation gives you more room to absorb those costs within a sustainable monthly budget. When your credit score is in a range where the rate improvement from a larger down payment is significant enough to justify the wait. At some credit score and loan-to-value combinations, a larger down payment produces a meaningfully better rate. And when you're a disciplined saver who will actually invest the difference between your saved amount and 20% rather than spending it, the argument for 3% down and investing the remaining 17% becomes less compelling than simply getting to 20% and eliminating both PMI and the investment risk. But notice what all of these scenarios have in common. They're specific, they apply to specific buyers, in specific situations with specific numbers. They don't apply to everyone by default, which is what the 20% rule has been treated as for decades. The 20% down payment myth has kept more first-time buyers on the sidelines longer than almost any other piece of conventional wisdom in real estate. It isn't wrong to want to put 20% down. It's wrong to assume it's the only acceptable path without running the actual math on your actual situation against the actual programs available to you right now. The median first-time buyer put down 8% last year. They used programs designed specifically for people in their situation, and they didn't wait for a number they'd been told was the only responsible option. They ran the math, found a better path, and bought. You can do the same thing. If you've been saving toward a number that was always larger than it needed to be, share this with someone still doing the same. Like and subscribe. We put out 3 of these a week, and none of them will waste your time.